All right, let's talk about the Chelsea match from this week. So the final score was 2-3. It's not exactly necessarily what it felt like it should have been by the end. We had a bunch of close calls that didn't materialize. But to begin with, I noticed that we did play a pretty strong lineup for the EFL Cup against them.
We did, and I think it says a lot, given this kind of stretch of games. We talked a little bit about all of the rotation we saw for the Portsmouth game. I mean, I think other than Kepa getting a second consecutive start, which made sense, I think, in the context of what was coming up over the next couple of games. We rolled out a top-tier lineup, and honestly, we played like it. I thought we were really good in this game. You talked about the score in the game. I saw the comments somewhere, and I kind of agree. This was a 3-2 game that felt like it should have been 4-1. It felt like we left a few opportunities on the table, and some of what we conceded was not what you want. I'd have been much happier with 3-2 if this was the days of away goals still being the tiebreaker, but that has since disappeared. So, we basically we're up one. We're up one. That's it. That's all that matters. Going home in the second leg. But overall, I thought there was a lot to be excited about in this one. Do you disagree?
Yeah, no, I mean, yes, I was really, really crushed with their second goal. I was really feeling like we were going to go into the second leg up a net of 2, not 1, and that would have all but assured our advancement into the final. But I still feel good about going in with the one goal lead, but 2 would have been better.
It would have been. It was the first game with Liam Rossinier, I think is how they pronounced it. It was the first home game for him as Chelsea manager.
Right.
I don't know. I come away from that thinking they still have, I think, a fair amount of work to do. Chelsea does. They're obviously talented, but I think there's a lot of problems there that weren't Enzo Maresca's doing. I think there's a lot in there as far as stuff that wasn't his fault in terms of his being let go and their struggles. And I think Rossinior's got his work cut out for him. I do think it's fascinating that Chelsea will feel pretty good about where they stand, having lost at home another game against Arsenal that they didn't win. So I don't quite know what to make of that. But overall, I think this was one of those. We've talked about how goals change games, especially early goals, and they're 7 minutes in. Ben White, set piece again.
Yeah, one of those Declan Rice corners. Love the guy. He's so dependable with those.
Yeah, good to see Ben White back. He's been doing Ben White things the last couple of games, which is nice to see.
But no, what a textbook header though to seal that. That was beautiful.
And true to form, the Chelsea players were whining about contact on the keeper when, frankly, Sanchez just needs to be stronger there. I'm sorry, there's nothing there. Just stop.
No, it really doesn't look like it.
And then really just on the other side of halftime, I think we can, I know you'll talk about this more a little later, but Ben White again, he gets a quick throw. I mean, how often have we talked about the throw-ins taking so long? Picks it up, rifles it in, ends up...
Cucurella is looking around like, and like all of a sudden he's on the back foot trying to chase down Saka.
Which you can always tell because you can see his hair just flying about in every which way.
Right.
But yeah, White to Saka back to White slides it across. Sanchez is going to want that one back. And then there's Victor Gyökeres on the doorstep, and it's 2-0. And
Yeah, I did notice it was not a prolonged goal celebration. I feel like he has gained, if nothing else, some humility over the course of the season. But yeah, it was he was finally at the right place at the right time. I think that's the right time has been the main problem for him. He's very often in the right place, but just a step behind where he needs to be. And that was still the case a lot in the Chelsea and Forest matches. There were still additional other goals that he could have scored had he just had his timing been more in sync with the rest of his team. But
yeah, we'll save the larger Gyökeres discussion for the Forest game. But here it's nice to see him come good. And again, like we said, that's what you want to do. You want to be that kind of fox in the box, or I think Arscast they referred to him as an ox in the box. because he's not a small man.
Right.
But just that's kind of what you do. Get those dirty goals, and that was a dirty one. And I mean, that's Sanchez. He's that's two goals that if you're Chelsea and Sanchez, you just got to be you just got to think, man, what do you do with that? That's just poor play on his part.
Mm-hmm. And I don't remember if it was right before or right after that goal. I feel like it was probably right after that they subbed in Alejandro Garnacho, who we saw in the last match against Chelsea that we played in the league. And he came from Manchester United, I think, right? If I'm remembering that right.
Yeah, he was with United. Seems like he had a bit of a falling out with management, other players. They're kind of a mess up there. But yeah, left this summer, joined with Chelsea in August, and has been there with them. I'm not going to pretend I know how he's doing. I don't really care. He does seem like a perfectly Chelsea player, in which is not necessarily a compliment, but there he was. We made it 2-0, which was good because then they got one back a little bit later.
Yeah, pretty quickly after he came on, he made an immediate impact, and that was frustrating. He was just like left there just to pound it in right at the edge of the 6-yard box.
Yeah, I mean that's one we talked briefly about Sanchez. I think we could throw this one, I guess, from your perspective on Kepa. I guess I'm of two minds. That on the one hand, in a lot of ways, he's hung out to dry on that one. That shouldn't even be an opportunity. It's a bad giveaway, some poor clearance attempts, and you're left with with Garnacho, in a dangerous position, and he buries it. But even then, I still feel like on the shot, Kepa's got to do better with that, doesn't he?
Yeah, he didn't make himself big enough quickly enough. He kind of stuck out his leg a little bit, but he didn't convince Garnacho that he shouldn't take the shot, or that he had to angle it in a way that leads to it not going in. He could have done better, and I didn't really see that much until I was watching the replays again today, prepping for the show. But yeah, it wasn't overall. He had some good saves in the match too. It's not to put him down on the day. I think overall he had another good outing. It was just that one at least. Yeah, he'll want that back.
Yeah, but it's okay because we got it back ourselves a few minutes later. This was end-to-end stuff. There were 5 goals in this game. Kind of end-to-end. Second half in particular opened up a lot. And a lot of space there leads to Zubimendi with a great finish. A lot of good passing and assist from Gyökeres. I did see some man of the match shouts for him after this one with a goal and assist, but this one was Zubimendi with a great finish. And 3-1. And he kind of felt at that point, I don't know. To me, it felt a little bit like it was over at that point. Like we had the tie was done and dusted. I don't know. Yeah,
basically. And there's enough time left that you felt pretty comfortable they weren't going to get 2 more goals. Of course, it turned out there was definitely time for 1 more.
Yeah. And again, another one that I think we just kind of want back. The corner goes in and just no one gets to it until he gets to Garnacho, and he puts it in, and yeah,
you have to wonder. So I know we always credit Nico Jover with how well Arsenal does at scoring from set pieces. Do you know, is it also part of the set piece coach's goal, or I guess area of focus, to also coach them in defending set pieces too? I would think that's probably part of it.
I'll be honest, I don't know, because I think so much what the set piece coach does is sort of help you determine what you are going to do with the set piece, right? With the ball, because it's about ball placement and player movement and all of that. So I don't know. My suspicion is not, because we actually had a fairly poor record defending against set pieces last year. We actually gave up quite a few goals from those positions. And yet, Jover continued to get credit, of course, for all the corners and set piece goals we did score, which leads me to think that that's not really part of his remit. That's not really something he works on. I could be totally wrong about that. What you say makes a lot of sense, right? I mean, defending set pieces is a part of set pieces, isn't it? But I don't know. My suspicion, based on the way it gets talked about, is that's not the case. But I admit I don't know about that. And overall, I think we've done well this season with those. But obviously, this one not so great. Not so great.
Yeah, but overall, yeah, there's those couple slips, but I think we also had a few shots that could have scored but didn't. There was that one that Sanchez just like barely got a fingertip to and pushed clear that almost would have gone in, and it was a strong performance. I don't feel bad about how it went, and to be up 1-0 essentially when we come home for the second leg, it's a good place to be in.
Yeah, of course. This is a 2-leg stage, so obviously the total goals matters. Yes, it would have been better if it was 3-1 or 2-0, or obviously 4-1 would have been even better. But we're kind of in the position now where Chelsea, who has again not beaten us twice at home this season, draw in the league and then this loss here, now has to come to the Emirates and win.
Right.
And I just, as we saw I'm pretty sure it's like the last round with Palace where if they do win by a goal, it goes straight to penalties. I'm pretty sure there isn't extra time.
Oh, okay.
There may be in the final, but I'm not. Don't hold me to that. I'm not sure. But
Okay.
but I guess I also look at Chelsea, and I mentioned this earlier. Like, they are rather dislikable, aren't they?
Yeah, and I guess maybe a little bit more likable with Caicedo already being out of the competition due to a red card. I remember not liking him particularly when we played against him in the league until he was sent off and gave us that advantage that we didn't quite take enough advantage of. But
But it's just, I mean, and you'll hear this too, by the way, because Cole Palmer was out, Caicedo is out, and there's one other player who I'm just totally blanking on his name, and it's going to annoy me. And they're key players of their lineup that we're missing, but also, like, I'm sorry, I look at Chelsea and I see a rather immature team. Like, they look, some of the comparison was to where we were a couple of years ago. They let their emotions get the better of them. You saw the little dust up they had there right after the final whistle. I forget who it was. Somebody tried to shove Zubimendi. Zubimendi just laughs at him. Like, I'm sorry. This is Chelsea. Again, I think I can't speak to Maresca as a day in day out manager. I don't know. Obviously, I don't really follow Chelsea. But I can't believe he's only the problem there. They've got a lot of young players who don't really know. It's just hard to. I don't think they're quite up to it yet, and I think they're still a bit over emotional. I think they're still a little too independent. They're still working through some of the problems they had of that. Like, they aren't the completely overstuffed locker room that they were a couple seasons ago, but it's still not. I just don't think they still quite know yet who they are or what they're trying to do. And I just have a hard time believing that group is going to come into the Emirates, a place where we have not lost all season, and somehow win. I just don't see it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I'm right there with you. So, speaking of Caicedo not being in this match because of a card, that got me wondering when I heard that, how does card accumulation work with the cup competitions? Because I know we generally talk about, if you get a red card, let's say toward the end of a Champions League season, it'll carry over into the next season or things like that. But this is within the auspices of the English FA. How does it work between the two cup competitions and in the Premier League? If you get a yellow card accumulation suspension, could that be served in a cup match, or would that have to be the next Premier League match? How does that work?
So card accumulation, which is typically deals with yellow cards, right? It's like if you get 10 yellow cards before the end of the first half of the season, you're suspended a game. Those are only Premier League, done in the Premier League. And I don't know what the accumulation rules, if there are any for the FA Cup or the Carabao Cup. I don't think so, because typically the FA Cup, if Arsenal were to play in the final of the FA Cup, they play 5 games.
Yeah,
like, that's not really enough to accumulate, cards. Short of like a 3 yellows means a suspension thing. I don't know that's the case. However, suspensions accrued, particularly as a result of red cards, are actually carried over. So Caicedo's card actually came in a Premier League game. That's why he was out.
Right. Okay.
Maybe it was the FA Cup game. I don't remember. But either way, the fact is, it was another game within that. Now, he would still be serving that. He's still serving that suspension, as opposed to, say, we have European games this week. Obviously, that's a completely different set of competition, and so we've talked about this, right? When a player gets we've done, like, I think Calafiori got himself picked up a suspension in the league one week. Like, well, I guess he's going to go 90 in Europe this week because we're not going to use him in the Premier League. But yeah, so there is some sense in terms of the suspensions are done consistent, they're used across the competitions, but in terms of accumulating cards, no, they are not.
Okay. And one other kind of rules-based question I had is, as you mentioned, during that corner kick, they were crying foul against, I don't know who it was, but they said someone fouled Sanchez. What is the standard for fouling a keeper during a corner kick? Because I do feel like I've seen the whistle blown before the ball is kicked, typically, or at least before anything actually happens from it while it's midair or something. And I've seen play stop because of that. But what are they looking for? What is too much contact on the keeper? Because they're all packed in pretty close. There's no matter what, there's going to be some contact.
Right. And we've talked about their keeper, their Sanchez. We've talked about Raya, how good he is at that. And a few times when he hasn't been, in terms of like being physically strong and basically forcing yourself into positions. As an offensive player, you have the right to be in position, to establish yourself, to make a play on the ball. But the keeper generally gets a little bit more leeway. If the referee feels that you're making a legitimate play on the ball, generally speaking, they'll let that go.
Mm-hmm.
Now, typically when you see calls made, there's bumping and pushing. Sometimes there's a lot of grabbing. Ben White once got a warning because he was holding the keeper's hand.
I remember that. Yeah.
And the most Ben White foul possible.
Yeah.
So
master of the dark arts that he is. Yeah.
Yeah. So it basically is. I think as long as the referee feels that you're making an effort on the ball, right, or you're making what could be deemed as you're actually trying to position yourself offensively. Now, are there plenty of occasions where guys look like they're playing the ball when they're obviously not? Yes, we know those cases too. But as long as what you're doing could be construed as making a play on the ball, there's generally a lot of leeway there. That being said, the keepers also get a little bit more leeway. Like, a defender can't fling himself into an attacking player, whereas a keeper can go for it. And he's grabbing the ball, punching the ball. And generally, he gets away with a lot of that, too. So he gets a lot more leeway within that space.
Yeah, and also protected too sometimes when he's going for the ball, depending on the nature of how the tackle is, when he's clearly already on his way to it. I know there's sometimes some deference there. Like, okay, look, the keeper is like inches away from getting his hand on the ball and you kicked him in the face. Like, that's not okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.